Hi everyone, and welcome to the Book Refuge, and welcome to my next video in my 2020 TBR list. I am going to be doing a TBR game in 2020, and on it are these prompts to read books that I already own, which I have a lot of books that I own that I haven't read, and so I'm making these videos to kind of prompt me to get through my backlog TBR. It's not stopping me from buying new books. I'm not going to do anything that drastic, but just to kind of encourage me to get to some that I've had for years and haven't read yet, and others that I keep picking them up and not getting them to. So this video, as you can see, is about series that I want to start or hopefully read the whole thing in 2020. I have a lot of books that I've gotten from Book Outlet or from used bookstores or bought them all new, because I'm like that I have the entire trilogy or the whole series or every book that's out so far, and I haven't read any of them. And so I made a list, and there's quite a few on this list where I own the entire series or trilogy or whatever and haven't started them. So let's dive in. I don't even know how many there are, but this is a mixture of like authors I want to read as well as books. So the first one up on here is Joe Abercrombie. I have his Half a King and Half a World, as well as I have The Blade itself. So either one of those series, I would be happy to get started by him. I've heard that's very grimdark. I've heard it's really gritty. My friend Murphy just read it and she really enjoyed it. So I'd be interested in reading that and catching up to her and maybe reading that with her in 2020. Next, I have the Ruined trilogy by Amy Tantera. I know this is kind of like a medieval fantasy setting, and there is this like kingdom, and there's this girl who's been wronged by it, and so she infiltrates it and is going to try to get revenge. And I really liked Amy Tantera's duology about it. It's called Reboot. I read that like 6 or 7 years ago, and I really want to try this trilogy, and I got the whole thing on Book Outlet, and it's time to give it a try. Next, I have the Great Hunt duology. This is by Wendy Higgins, I believe. I'm going off of memory. I don't have her written down, but I know the Great Hunt. Murphy really liked this book. I found both of these on Book Outlet. I've had the duology for a while. Time to give it a go. You're going to hear that a lot. The Lord John Grey series. This is a series that takes place in between the time jump of Voyager. So if you're someone who's into the Outlander series, you may already know about this, but Lord John Grey is a character, well, technically we meet him in Dragonfly and Amber, but he becomes most prominent in Voyager and then the rest of the series, and there is a pretty significant time gap for him where we see him. This series starts off, I believe, with the Scottish prisoner, and he meets Jamie Fraser, and then they diverge from each other, and there is like 10, 15 years where they don't see each other, and there are these different adventures that John Grey goes on. And so Diana wrote these novellas, and there's like 2 full-length novels, but mostly novellas. And I bought all of these books, and I just look at myself, and I'm like, Jen, you have more books written by Diana Gabaldon, and you haven't read them. And I think, what a crazy woman that I am. So I want to get into the Lord John Grey series. Probably when I finish with my reread of Outlander, which my reread will probably go, I think it's going through April, and then I'll probably take those on. Next, I have the Nemesis duology. I don't know who this is by. I'll put up a picture, but I got these 2 from Barnes & Noble when they were on sale at different points. I think this one is about, like, I think Nemesis is a robot of some kind or a cyborg, and yeah, that's all that I know, but it seemed really cool, and I own it, and it's time to read it. Next, I have the Lifeblood trilogy, which starts with Everlife, and this is by Gina Showalter, who wrote these, like, I know she wrote like vampire or like werewolf books as well, and this is her YA series. This is about where when you die, you go to one of 2 places, and so there are these like agents / like people who try to get you to choose where you're going to go when they die, because the 2 worlds are kind of at war and they need more lives to come to one than the other. I don't fully understand it. I got the whole trilogy on Book Outlet, and I want to read it. We'll see. Next, I have John Gwynne, and I think the first book is called Malice. I have the 3rd and the 4th book, but I'll get the 2nd book. I know that Piera Ford really liked this series a lot, and which is why I originally bought the first one. And I think it's a fantasy, and I know there are like giants, and it's really exciting, and that's all I know, but I would love to read it. Next, the Furyborn series. I have the first two. This is by Claire Legrand. I've heard this is kind of new adult. It's kind of sexy. It has magic. It's a split timeline, 2 different women at different times, and I just haven't got around to reading it yet, but it needs to happen. The Cruel Prince trilogy by Holly Black. This is another one where I'm kind of starting the first one right now, like this month, but I really need to read this trilogy. I was waiting for it to be out before I started it, but I already own the first 2, and I just bought the third one, and I want to read this trilogy. I know it's going to be one that I like, but I just waited because they were kind of short books, and so I wanted to wait till they were all out. But I love fairies. I love when fairies are evil. I love lots of kinds of fae. I love the idea of this heroine who's like kind of morally gray, and she falls in love with the bad boy, and it's like a love-hate, like toxic relationship. I like those. I like reading about them. Do I want one for myself? No. But do I like reading about it? Yes. Yes, I do. 3 Dark Crowns. I have the first 3 books in this series. I've heard this is really good. Kendara Blake, here we go. The Gold Seer trilogy. I got all of these on Book Outlet. They seem cool. It's about this girl who can find gold, and she gets blackmailed and used for it, and it's like gold rush time in California, and people want to use her to find gold, and it's dangerous, and that sounds cool. The Charlotte Holmes series. I have all 4 of these. Haven't started those, but I heard these are really fun. It's a retelling of Holmes and Watson, where Sherlock is a woman, and they're at boarding school, and they're descendants of the real Sherlock and Holmes. So that's exciting. Steve Lawhead. So these are books that I have had for about 4 years. My friend from back home, his name is Philip, he told me that these are kind of like a time travel story where some young men like fall back in time, which sounded like Outlander to me, sounded exciting. And they fall back in time for this like war, and like they get embroiled and everything. And so I have a lot of Stephen's books. I have the entire Paradise War trilogy, and I also have Hood and Scarlet, which is like his Robin Hood retelling. So either one of those series I would like to start and hopefully finish next year. The Dance of Thieves duology by Mary E. Pearson. It is a tragedy that I haven't read these yet. I've downloaded the first one on Audible, and I may start it over Christmas while I'm traveling. But I really need to read this duology because the Redneck Chronicles were are some of my favorite books, and I need to read more about it. I need to know. And then finally, Mistborn by Brandon Sanderson. I know I'm a horrible person for having not started those. I cannot wait to read them. I know I'm going to love them. I've just put it off because I always think of excuses when really I just want to be a part of the party and get going. And I have so much Brandon Sanderson left to read, but each book that I read means that I have one less to read. You know what I mean? Maybe not. All right, that's everything for this video. Those are a series that I haven't started that I want to get into in 2020. I put up new videos every Monday and Thursday, and a lot of times on Saturdays too. And if you want to watch some of them, you can do it right now. Thanks so much for watching. Bye.